First off, he has never done anything outwardly harmful to either me or my wife. We also enjoy his company very much both for and despite the following events. That being said, I've known him for a year and he does some of the weirdest shit I've experienced. I actually like him for all of his quirks. He's clearly smart and capable, but then again so was Ted Bundy, so I'm not the best judge of character. Here's a short list of my favorite moments witnessed by me or told to me by my wife. On holiday in a small camp by a lake, I wake up to him howling Native American chants and bird calls. On his own. By the water. To nobody. At 8 a.m. He's white. At dinner I asked another relative if frogs are farmed for their legs or wild caught. Carmichael, fake name, took this as an opportunity to speak at length about Vietnamese frog farms. Lasted a good 10 minutes of unbroken dialogue explaining that the frogs taste like shit because they feed them literal shit. The whole thing was bizarre and surprisingly not racist. He bought a new leaf blower. It's summer. I hear it at least 5 times a day. We aren't near any trees and his deck is at most 12 foot x 6 feet. I have no idea what he's blowing. None of us do. My wife was hanging out with her other uncle in his cabin. Carmichael lets himself in, walks past them without a word and goes into the bathroom. He's in there a couple of minutes and leaves without a word. They stop him and ask what he was doing and he said, "My pants were inside out." His cabin is 30 feet away. He also has a new jet ski. Nobody knows where he got it from. He also refuses to tell anyone where it came from and acts like we just asked him what his favorite flavor of dog shit is when we try to ask. Then he fucks off on it for ages without elaborating. I respect it. He found out that there is a ship horn on the dock. He let us know about it in the way you can imagine. It's a horn designed to signal freighters. It is the opposite of quiet. Quiet no longer exists. I miss quiet. At a potluck me and my wife sat down with our plates so she could introduce us to more family. He sits down with us, and asks to say grace. I play along because I'm not an arsehole, but once he says the prayer he just gets up and leaves. We are all very confused, but at least my burrito was cleansed of sin. At another dinner he asks me what my diet regime is like. I had lost some weight. He then proceeds to tell me that he's been following paleo really strictly as I watch him buttering a roll and eating it. I am yet to ascertain if he was fucking with me or not. Less funny and more just mental, he also lost his driving license for going on a bender and driving down the wrong side of the freeway. My theory is he has the jet ski because rivers don't have lanes. He caught a fish. I came to check it out in the fish prep hut. He yells at me to not come closer repeatedly as if I was in grave danger. I get closer and it's 2 little bass about 12 inches each. He then shows me how to fillet it and he's actually very good, although I'm nervous seeing him with a knife. He then chucks the guts into the river despite multiple signs saying not to because it attracts otters. I like otters. I'll give him more fish in the future. At the camp, a car pulls up. A woman gets out with her baby. Carmichael takes the baby into the lake and baptizes it and hands it back to the woman. The woman leaves. None of us know who she is and Carmichael isn't a minister. Also the lake now has fish guts in it. He just now drove his car to the dock to go to his jet ski. His cabin is 20 meters away. He sped as fast as he could. It still would have been quicker to walk. Apparently you people wanted more. I asked around camp and gathered what I could. There is too much for one post according to them, which has me both intrigued and terrified. Carmichael is to be loved. Carmichael is to be feared. Carmichael is to be studied for science. I made a comment about my wife pissing like a horse. As mentioned in the comments of my last post, Carmichael works with horses, although nobody knows that for certain. He then tells us about the longest piss he's ever seen a horse take, but gets held up on the specific length of time. He takes out his phone and opens up a note where he has various times he has taken of his horse's pissing. When I asked why he has that, he said, it seemed important at the time. I don't know if he estimates the time before counting, or if he is watching intently for the moment they begin. I'm not sure which is worse. Carmichael comes down to a fire we having going carrying a big pot full of ice. He puts the pot on the fire. We ask why and he says, I don't trust the drinking water here. The water he used came from the faucet. It's the same water. Apparently when he was in England, he went to post something in a mailbox. He had new packet of cigarettes in his other hand when he left. When he came back, he still had the letter but no cigarettes. Carmichael had posted his cigarettes. Carmichael has one holiday decoration. He somehow got his hands on a skeleton from a doctor's office. It isn't real, but it looks it. For Halloween it's fine, but for Christmas he puts a hat on it and for Thanksgiving he puts a set of fancy dressed turkey wings on it he found in a thrift store. I don't know what he does for 4th of July but I'd assume it is explosive. Speaking of explosive, one of Carmichael's fish died. We didn't know he had fish. He invited us around for a funeral and it seemed important to him so a few of us came. He decided to do a Viking burial by putting the fish on a little raft he made and telling us it is rigged to set on fire. What he didn't tell us was he used tannerite and it exploded. It wasn't a massive explosion but it scared the shit out of us. I don't even know if there was a fish on there. If there wasn't afterwards. More explosives. He somehow got his hands on some small fireworks that resemble dynamite, but not actually, thank Christ. Him and a buddy, in the middle of the night, lighted in the fireplace inside the house only to realize that they now had a lit explosive in the house. According to them, they went to the front door but decided they didn't want to wake up the neighbors, then ran to the upstairs bathroom and, out of the toilet, the sink and the bathtub they chose to throw it into the empty bathtub blowing a giant bastard hole into it. At no point did they think to try to put it out. Nobody was hurt except the tub. Babysitting a young relative, I think around 10 to 12, some Jehovah's Witnesses came to the door. The relative, I don't know who they are, big-ass family, opened the door and they started their lecture about how the world could be everyone smiling and forcing a leaflet into the kid's hand. Carmichael comes to the door smoking a cigarette. He takes the leaflet, takes out his lighter, sets the leaflet on fire, hands it back to them and shuts the door in their face. Honestly, this isn't even weird, it's just based as fuck. Another Jehovah's Witnesses story, and how he was blacklisted from their door-knocking route. They came to his door, gave their talk, different group years later, and he invited them in. Apparently they were there for 2 hours discussing theology. When they invited him to their church, he said, "Oh, I'm not interested in joining, I just like talking to people," and they left. A few weeks later, another duo came and he did it again. We got word through friends of friends that the local chapter tell people not to knock on his door. This one, it is important to say that Carmichael has never, ever been accused of anything weird with kids, and while he can put us on edge, nobody has ever felt in danger. Once out with friends they were throwing a football about and some children around 6 to 8 came up asking to play. No parents to be seen, and they were all adults. After telling them to get lost, one of the kids kicks him in the shin. He responds, "I wouldn't molest you even if I was desperate." Questions were asked, such as, "What the fuck?" and he said that he wanted to say something that wouldn't make sense right now, but in the future will pop into their minds and really mess with them. Again, he's never acted weird towards kids in any way, shape or form, it was just a super fucked and dark comeback which I personally think is a stroke of evil genius. At one point the cops were looking for him for grand theft auto and arson for stealing and setting a camper on fire. To this day, nobody ratted on him because he swears up and down it was an accident. How one accidentally steals a camper and burns it to the ground is a question for greater minds than me, but considering the stuff he tells us he actually did, we all believe him. He once claimed the earth was flat. We asked him about how the stars and sun and moon and so forth would work. He then goes, I guess it isn't flat, and never mentioned it again. Similar thing with the moon landing, he claimed it was a hoax. Someone sent him the Mythbusters episode on the moon landing. He texts back, cool, we went to the moon. When I heard these two stories in conjunction, I'm almost certain he was just fucking with us to an expert level. A more wholesome one, he has some innate ability to get anyone talking about anything. One time he dropped by a relative's house while their new girlfriend was home. By all accounts this new girlfriend was stuck up, into astrophysics and didn't have time for anyone. After a brief hello, the relative goes to get them drinks, but when he comes back less than a minute later Carmichael has sat down with her and has her talking earnestly about the concept of life after death and tangent realities through a scientific viewpoint. He owns what I call the chair of Theseus. Years back he made a chair, and over the years pretty much every part has broken and been replaced. Thing is, it's a really shitty chair and apparently holds zero significance to him. I've seen him burn broken furniture for less. I straight up don't get it, because this has apparently been going on for close to a decade, which is a long ass time for a troll that rarely comes up.